Hi everyone, this is our channel Around My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
They say that love is one of the most mysterious powers on this earth. Having someone who cares about you, knowing that someone is willing to sacrifice their life for you, is a blessing. Love helps us accept who we are and inspires us to be better people. Though, if truth be told, it is not always easily expressed. What if you can't express it? What if you can't feel it? This is our story today. My name is Amanda, and I am 23 years old. I live with my mom. My only sister is studying in Canada. I've always wanted to travel the world and learn about various cultures, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. I became a teacher, though. I felt that teaching students was a worthy and noble endeavor. I didn't just want to teach them about their school subjects. I wanted to be a friend to them, a part of their life. After I graduated, I looked for teaching vacancies in my neighborhood, and I found an opening at a house for orphans. I took this as a sign that it's where I was supposed to be, so I applied. The manager was a kind woman. She welcomed me and explained what I was supposed to do. She said I would be teaching the students the basics of reading and writing, and that she was hoping that I would do everything I could to help them. These kids were special, and they needed extra care and love. On my first day, the program manager was talking to the kids, and when I entered the room, she introduced me to the class, and they politely stood up and said good morning. Then I told them a bit about myself, what I like to do, my favorite food, and asked them to tell me a bit more about them. All the students happily told me what they liked. All but one. He sat in the very last row. I called on him to introduce himself, but he didn't answer. One of the girls spoke up and said that his name was Larry, and that he could neither hear nor speak. I started my first lesson, but I was concerned. I asked the program manager about Larry, and she told me that he had witnessed the death of his parents when they rescued him from a burning building, and they died in the process. She said they had tried hard to rehabilitate him, but without success. She told me that Larry didn't have friends, even though the students all liked him. I felt sympathy for him. He had caught my attention from the very first day. Over the next few days, I tried to get him to open up to me by giving him small presents occasionally. He would smile. I read several books about cases like this. They all focused on theory, nothing for practical application. I wanted to help him. Then, it just came to me. I decided to teach him sign language. Of course, I had to learn it first. It wasn't easy, but if it could help him escape his world of silence, then it was worth all the effort. And so I began. I would learn something, then I would teach him what I had learned. He didn't respond at first, and I think he had no clue what I was doing, but I never gave up. Every time I saw him, I spoke to him in sign language. Slowly, the barriers between us began to fade. I decided to teach the whole class sign language too. It would be nice to surround him with friends he could communicate with. It was going fine, but I still wanted to give more. I asked the manager's permission to take Larry home to spend the day with my family. My sister was coming home for summer break. We laughed and enjoyed meals together. The family atmosphere seemed to relax him. When his birthday came, we organized a class birthday party for him. We bought a cake and decorated it. When he entered the class, we broke out into the happy birthday song. His friends presented him with presents, but the best part was when he was able to express his appreciation and gratitude using sign language. We could all see how happy he was. Later, we discovered other things about Larry. For example, he loved to draw. This was my first step. A good first step. We all wish to live a fairy tale, something right out of our dreams. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. Some stories are better left in the dark where they belong, never to be trampled upon, never to be heard. Mine was such a story. My name is Amanda. I'm 19. I live with my father and 3 sisters in the basement. Yes, you heard me. The basement, to protect ourselves from the alien invaders. I'm not crazy. It's true. And the weirdest part is yet to come. My dad used to work at a science research center, and for some unknown reason they kicked him out. Now he runs a small library. Well, he did. The pay wasn't much, but it was more than enough. As for my mom, she died a mysterious death. She was late coming home from work one day, and when Dad got home, we told him that she hadn't arrived. He called the police. They searched everywhere for her. Then they finally found her body in the river. It was too late by then. The culprit was unknown. There were no clues, no traces of anything. That day, Dad gathered us round to tell us a secret. He told us that the aliens had killed our mother. We were young then. We didn't quite get what he was saying, but we knew that Dad wouldn't tell a lie. He also showed us a paper with strange writing. Nothing like anything we've ever seen before. He told us that the paper said that the aliens would invade the Earth within days. We were shocked, not knowing what we were supposed to do. We started crying. So Dad decided that we were to live in the basement of the house until the invasion is over. The next day he went out, and when he came back, he had all sorts of food and drink. He locked all the doors and windows. He moved all the electric appliances to the basement. We weren't even allowed to watch TV or any contact with the outside world. And we started living in the basement. One of my sisters was sick, but because we weren't allowed to deal with the outside world, she died. The days passed, one after another. We were completely isolated. Whenever we ran out of food, Dad would leave to get us more, at the risk of his own life, of course. He would always lock us in the basement while he was gone. One of those days, Dad had gone to get us food, but when he got back, he was crying. He said that the aliens invaded the Earth, that the human race was going extinct, that we were among the very few that still remained on the planet. After that, Dad's behavior got weirder. He would sit alone and mutter to himself, "Death is coming. All is lost." And time passed infinitely. It felt like years in that basement. One day, Dad came back from his trip. There was a strange, scary look in his eyes, and he had a gun in his hand. He looked at us and said, "I won't allow the aliens to kill you. I will spare you their torture. I will end this myself." And he pointed the gun in our direction. My sisters and I ran to the door, pounding on it with all our might, calling for help. He screamed madly and said, "Death to all." With all our pounding, the door swung open. We ran up. All the doors and windows were barred down with wooden plates, all except one. We ran out to the street, and there was our shock. Normal humans were walking around everywhere, and when they saw us, they screamed and said, "The ghosts of Denver Manor." We didn't know what was going on, but Dad had come out after us and started firing the gun at random. A bunch of people tied him down and called the police. When the police came, he told us the truth, that Dad had lost his mind when he got fired from work, and when Mom confronted him, he killed her, and that was the end.
My son killed me. Yes, you read that correctly. I am not a ghost or an evil spirit that needs rescuing. I have a brave heart. My name is Megan, and I hope to inspire you with my story. I lived with my father and my sister Marlene after the death of my mother, who died from an illness. Though I was only 18 years old, I became responsible for taking care of my whole family. I did everything for them, like cooking, cleaning, washing, etc. My father was a great man, and he did his best to make us happy. I supported both my sister and my father. We faced a lot of problems together, illnesses, financial problems, school, and the like. But there came a day when I had to make a life and death decision at my young, tender age. I fell in love, as any girl my age tends to do. My sweetheart turned out to be loved my neighbor, a guy named Dave. We had grown up together, and we shared everything. Love, sadness, jokes. Our dreams had evolved as we grew up too, so we decided to marry. He knew all about my life circumstances, so he chose a flat near my family for me. We had a nice party and celebrated with our families and friends. Every day, he proved himself to be a responsible man. He loved and respected me, and I him. Finishing my studies was one of my dreams, and Dave supported me in every way to achieve it. But my biggest dream was to have a baby. But sometimes life just isn't fair. One day, while cleaning the house, my heart began beating rapidly, and I couldn't breathe well. I was barely able to call out to Dave, who came immediately when he heard me cry for help. I had had this symptom before when I was younger, but I never told my father because I didn't want to worry him. Dave took me to the hospital, where a doctor said I had a serious heart condition. And not only that, I was pregnant too. Pregnancy and a heart condition do not a good combination make. So we had to choose between the baby's life or mine. My father and Dave asked me to abort the baby, though they tried hard to persuade me. I resolutely refused. I agonized a lot during my pregnancy. My father and Dave were so worried for my safety. My father and Marlene left their flat to live with me. In addition, Dave cut back on his working hours to stay with me. The day came when I went into labor. They took me to the hospital, where the doctor checked me over and pronounced that my condition was so serious that I wouldn't be able to survive the childbirth. My family and I were shocked. I held Dave's hand and told him that I was strong enough to survive this. Dave hugged me, crying tears like a river. I was so afraid, but I did my best to hide that fact. I looked to my protruding belly and said to my baby, "I want you to know that I sacrificed myself for you. You had better grow up to be a great young man. I love you." Then the baby started pushing its way into this world. The scene fades to blackness. The baby is born. Suddenly, a year later, a birthday party is being held. The baby is now 1 year old. A woman is singing with the baby and her family. The woman looks at you and winks. Megan says, "Haha, fooled you. I lived through the childbirth. Sometimes life gives us a second chance, but you have to be willing to accept the risk."
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm 23 years old, and I teach art. I recently got married to the love of my life, Norman. I considered him my friend, my brother, my son, and my husband. We loved to prank each other, even after we got married. For instance, one time I turned off all the lights in the apartment, dressed up as a monster, and scared the living daylights out of him when he came back from the store. Another time, he damaged my car. I put mayonnaise on his toast. I did worry sometimes that our jokes might go too far. I mean, he did get really mad at me once. He stopped talking to me for 2 days, even though I apologized profusely many times. After that, our pranks sort of stopped. I figured our pranking days were over. About a month later, I returned home to find a letter on the floor. I opened it and read it. "If you don't pay us 100,000 by Friday, we will kill Norman." I smiled. Norman was pranking me again. When he returned home, I hugged him and showed him his prank letter. He read it carefully, and his brow furrowed. He appeared seriously frightened and swore that this was not part of any prank. He told me that we needed to leave town as soon as possible. I asked him why, and he told me that before he married me, he had stolen a gold statue from a motorcycle gang. I asked him why he couldn't just return it with an apology, and he told me that the statue was worth a lot of money and could make us really wealthy. That night, an armed masked burglar broke into our apartment and confronted us with a gun. He said to Norman, "Hello, Norman, long time no see. You need to choose between the statue or your wife. Choose now." Norman was hesitant. Then he steadfastly said, "I can't give up the statue. Take my wife." The masked man turned towards me. He pointed the gun at me in a threatening manner. I was frantic. I was staring at Norman in shock. Suddenly, the masked man ripped off his mask. It was Keanu, Norman's brother. Norman sat down, laughing so hard he could hardly stop to breathe. Between laughs, he said, "This is payback for the last prank of yours. I was so mad at him that day, but it's all right. He doesn't know what I have planned for him."